Welcome to Freelance Sucks. Here we discuss the dark side of freelancing about which nobody usually talks out loud. And in this show, we speak with experienced freelancers, and I'm sure listening to their stories helps you prepare for freelancers' challenges. My name is Yuri. I'm community builder at Code Control and 9am.works. And my guest is Bastian Gruber, freelancer engineer and software enthusiast with more than 10 years of experience, the author of the Rust web development book, and founder of Rust and Tell Berlin Meetups. So welcome, Bastian.
Hey, thank you for having me.
First of all, tell me, why did you start Rust and Tell Meetups?
I like to surround myself with people who also want to learn and are aware that they're not at the stage yet where they want to be. And to start a meetup is always a great thing because it pulls people who want to know more than they currently do. And I really like to surround myself with these types of people.
Did you have any challengers starting those meetups?
The Rust and Tell was an exception. It was absolute no, because Berlin is such a hub for Rust developers. So it was so easy just to have the name there, and then people just came in the hundreds. Yeah, this was pretty easy because of the location.
Did you give any advertisements, or how did you position it?
So there is a meetup called Hack and Learn in Berlin, and I think it started in New York, and it came to Berlin, and I really liked their format. They had more talks, more shorter talks, but they super practical, and I'm a practical type of person, so I tried to model it based on their framework. So no advertisement, just taking what was there.
Just word of mouth. Okay. So for you as a freelancer, what is the hardest part of being a freelancer?
Definitely the uncertainty, and every 3 to 6 months finding a new client. Sometimes you feel like you can buy a house in 3 months, and then a week later you hope that you don't have to go to a food bank. This mindset of, if a thing goes well, the money comes in, but not money you can really own. So you always have to look for new jobs. You have to stretch out the money so it lasts for 2 or 3 years at least. This constant balance of safety and not safety can take a toll on you.
Do you start searching for a new client after finishing previous project or during that?
Usually almost 1 or 2 months before the project runs out, I start my census and I contact the recruiters or the past companies, and I say, hey, in 4 to 8 weeks, I'm available again. And then I start the process.
Okay. And what is the most time-consuming thing you must deal with as a freelancer?
I would say finding new project is even more time-consuming than finances. There are quite a few apps out there on the phone, and once you have your finances in check after the onboarding phase, it's actually quite straightforward, but finding projects is the most time-consuming part.
Do you do finances yourself?
Yeah, because you need to learn it for maybe half a year, but then you can do 80% yourself.
Have you ever thought becoming a finance consultant?
Actually, I did, yeah. I actually wanted to do private finance for people as a coach, but I never did.
So maybe in the future, you never know.
Yeah.
And what is the most nerve-consuming thing you must do as a freelancer?
Definitely getting into companies. It depends on the project, but sometimes you go into a team who is working for 3 or 4 years or more together, and you have to come in, and sometimes you see stuff which is not well, and this is what you get paid for. So you have to tell them, your colleagues you try to bond with, you have to tell them, hey, this part of the code base should be improved. This process is not good. Let's improve it. This can be quite hard every day. Basically, you are the new person. You're never part of the team. So each day you come in as you're not part of the company. So it takes a special mindset to wake up like this and go into a company like this every day.
And do you have this feeling in every company? Or maybe at some companies, they are more open, like tell us everything, tell us like what do you see, how it usually works for you?
It depends on the company. I had projects where they were very reluctant on feedback. They just wanted to have the code done. One company told me, please improve it because we are so frustrated to a degree where then you have to say this is part of the company culture, and no matter like what you do, you will always, this will never work out in your company. And this is hard to say, but after seeing so many different teams, you know after 1 or 2 days, this is basically not gonna happen. It depends. There are startups who hire 20 different freelancers, and then it's quite nice because like no one has a stake in the company politics, so you can go in, collaborate, do your best work, and move on. And these are usually the best types of projects.
Sometimes people say that as a freelancer, you can choose the project you want to work on, and you can like drop the project if you don't like. Have you ever worked on a project that you liked from the beginning, but then didn't like?
Yeah. This was after I took a year off and we traveled around. That's a nice part of being a freelancer, if it works out. And then in the beginning, was all great. And then the project grew, we were maybe 6 people, and then we were 20, 30. And then I had to do the same stuff over and over and over again. They even tried to pay me more, but I said, I can't. My batteries are empty and I have to move on. So I left a huge chunk of money on the table and chose a project with lower pay because I couldn't anymore do the same stuff. Yeah.
You told me that you have 2 kids and you like traveling. So how can you connect traveling, kids, and freelancing?
Back then, it worked better because money was basically free and on the street. So each startup hired and paid. So it worked well because back then you could do remote, it was not uncommon. But the last projects I did it like this, we didn't have kids. So with kids, I might even now find it easier if you have a full-time job and a remote first company than a project, because you can get fired in the next week or the company to stop paying the bills, and then you have to look for a new contract while being in a different time zone, which can be quite tiring. So I rather travel and don't work. And that's the thing. I don't really like these pictures with the laptop in front of a beach. I rather be at the beach or in a dark winter place and work. I don't like to mix it because if I see the beach, I rather go on the beach and don't work. So yeah.
As a freelancer, do you ever feel professional loneliness?
Yeah, you definitely have to connect. You definitely have to find your tribe of people. This is why these freelance communities are so vital, because you need to share your experiences. You need to say, hey, this client is I don't know, is acting like this. And then you can ask people if they've experienced this in the past, and they say, yes, maybe try this. Yes, I've been through this, maybe drop it, or just the compassion. You need the compassion because you can't talk to the employees. You can't talk to the client right away. You first have to figure out, is this normal? Is this not? How should I act? And also just to vent. You need to sometimes have a drink or go for a walk and talk to a colleague and say, oh man, this project just sucks. I don't want to do it. It just helps to get it off your mind.
But to share all those stuff, you have to have a trusted space.
Yeah.
So how do you understand that it's an exact space where you can trust?
Yeah, trust is hard. I don't know, what are the pre-requirements? I guess it's gut feeling, but you just know, you open up a bit and you see if the other person opens up too, and then it's a little dance until both open up completely. This can take half a year, like 1 week. It depends on the person. But you first should test the waters and open up a little bit and see what comes back. And then you open up more and more. So slowly. Yeah.
Do you usually open up first or wait for somebody to open up?
I'm the one who waits. I try to be the opposite because I think everyone tries to wait and then like no one is opening up. So I try now to be the person who opens up to invite the other person also to do the same.
If your friend wanted to become a freelancer, what are top 3 things you'd advise them to consider before doing it?
First thing is always money. Have at least, I would say, like a year in savings for your current like expensive in the bank account. The second one is look for a freelance project while you still have a full-time job. Don't mention it. Maybe even try to reduce your time at your full-time like work to 3 or 2 days and try if it works out. And by the same stance, quit your job by not burn any bridges. Say, hey, I really want to try this. I'm not sure if it works out, and hope that the company says, sure, if you want to come back, come back. So like the safety net helps because it takes time to ease in. You don't want to make rush decisions. So build a safety net of like money, people, companies you can fall on first before you make the jump. And the third, maybe this was 3, but the third thing is definitely look for a handful of recruiters to get in touch. Find a community, I know like which does the project work, but always have 3-4 different communities and recruiters in your backhand. So there's a constant income stream or like a project stream.
How many recruiters do you have to have contacts with to have a constant stream of projects?
It depends on the size. So like I in my high time, I probably was always in contact with 3 or 4 like recruiters. If a new recruiter calls me or like is like messaging me, there's some freelancers who hate the recruiters. I say, hey, get in touch in 6 months again, because you never know. You always say, this is where my project ends. Feel free to get in touch again, because at some point you might need this call out of the blue to feel good about yourself or to get you through the year.
Have you tried referring some of your friends? For example, if you see a really good project, but you don't have an opportunity to work for them, you don't have time. Have you ever referred somebody?
Yeah, I did twice. It worked. Like they got the project and people were happy. And back in the days, now it's probably different, but back in the days, like good people always had projects. It was rare that you could get someone ad hoc. But now with like the layoffs and stuff, it's probably harder even to find projects for all the people. But yeah, I did, and it worked out. And this is, like one thing is share your work, share your thoughts, help people out constantly. The recruiters, the companies, your freelancers, be the point which helps everyone, because then at some point it will come back to you.
Yeah. Bastian, I wish to have the sky as the limit, but time is the limit. So the final question, if you were starting freelancing today, what is one thing you would have done differently?
Acted more professionally from the start, like I'm a sort of like a business, not in a cold way, but more in a, I have to build this trust that I'm an entity and not so much a human. If people, so like show that you're open and a human, but I let my like emotional stuff about how I feel about the team or a code base get into the way of doing like my best work. And in this business, I would have liked to be more every day. I go in, I try to do my best, and I vent afterwards, or I find a different way, or I always try to be constructive. I had projects where I was more like negative, and that's not constructive. So like one advice is like that anger is just a sign of helplessness, and I showed anger in projects, and I would have rather like to like empower myself and learn more about the situation and tools to help me than just to get angry.
Yeah. Bastian, thank you very much for sharing your experience and your wisdom. And it's been such a pleasure to learn from you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button or 5 stars and share it with your friend. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.